Hello and welcome. It's Sigrid de Kaste here, book writing and marketing specialist with a unique program for coaches and consultants who want to write a book that raises their profile, positions their expertise, and attracts new clients with ease. And today I am talking to the quirky coach, Zoe Dawes. Welcome, Zoe.
Thank you, Sigrid. Thank you very much. It's lovely to be here.
It is so nice to have you here. Now, Zoe is a highly intuitive life coach and a tarot reader. She's done for more than 20 years work with people right around the world and help them gain clarity and focus on personal and professional challenges with a unique combination of advice, support, coaching and card reading. And I'm really interested, Zoe, to know more about that. There are people with that gift in different ways and on different levels. And so I'm very interested, first of all, how did you discover that you have that gift?
That's a great question. I guess I discovered the gift of tarot reading when I was doing my coach training over in Ireland, and somebody there told me I was psychic and had an aura of healing. I had no idea, Sigrid, what she was talking about.
Wow.
I really didn't. But I'd always had an interest in horoscopes and tarot, but I'd never done readings myself, and I'd had one or two readings in the past that had maybe made me a bit wary. Anyway, she said, get a deck and just see, and eventually I did. And so I taught myself, because back in those days, 20 years ago, there was not really online stuff so much.
No.
Bought a book and
Mm-hmm.
and then but it's only in the last, I would say, 3 years where what I call my intuitive gifts have probably developed so much to a level that people would call them psychic now.
Mm-hmm.
And because of being a coach anyway, the combination is kind of very appealing, I think, to do both.
So I would imagine, I mean, I personally think we probably all have an intuitiveness within us, but a lot of people are not tapping into it for various reasons, whether they are fearful of it, whether they don't really understand it and therefore don't want to know about it, or whether they are so engulfed in the life that they're living here and now that they're not really hearing or listening or seeing the signs, right?
Absolutely. You've absolutely hit the nail on the head there, Sigrid. It's people are scared of it. They're scared of tarot, partly because of so many things from the past, with cards like the devil and the death card. I always explain those when I'm doing a reading to people before we do the reading, so they don't have a fear of it. But also, I think it is, interestingly, since lockdown, there has been a much greater interest in, more spiritual things, in perhaps listening, because we've got time to listen. But generally in our day-to-day, people haven't or don't so much. And yeah, as you say, I think there is also maybe a little bit of a fear of what they might find.
Mm-hmm.
So part of what I do is to reassure and demystify and create a safe place for people to either learn tarot or experience it through coaching.
So that's a great point. I want to come back to that in a moment. I've made a note of that. But the first question is, tarot cards do have like the devil and things like that on there. So people think of it, particularly if they might be spiritual people or people of a religion, that they might think, no, I don't want to have anything to do with the devil. That's not really the case. They just kind of symbolisms. Is that right?
Absolutely. The 22 major cards represent the Fool's journey. The Fool is the 0 card and takes him on a journey, which you could say is a sort of metaphorical life journey, where he goes through all sorts of different experiences and ends up, the final card is the World, where he's completed the journey. along the way, he experiences a lot of things, including when the devil comes up. That's about symbolically of facing our fears. The devil card is actually a great card to come up because it helps to hold up a mirror to the things that might be we're obsessing about, or we might be tied to behavior patterns, fear.
Right.
And then the death card comes up as the death card is transition, so it's a good card. It means you're leaving one part of life that is no longer needed, not a physical death, and moving into a new future. So yes,
new direction or something like that. Yeah. So when people, and it's very interesting that you said about, right now in these times that we are in, more people are looking at themselves and inwards and what might the future hold. Now, there is definitely, I think, a misunderstanding that you are predicting the future exactly how it will happen. That's not correct, is it? How would you describe that?
I'm really glad you raised that, because I think that's one of the classic misconceptions about. Of course, so when we talk about spiritual growth, and in the terms that we talk about it within the tarot community, we are talking about the development of our senses to sense something a little bit more than is just our own everyday life or understanding. But being intuitive is really what it's about. So a clairsentient, the clair means seeing, clear. So clairvoyants see the future. They could be the ones that maybe do get a kind of vision of what might happen, but that's not very common in the tarot community these days. Many more are probably, like myself, clairsentient. So they have a very strong intuition of feeling about things. And I would say that the cards for majority of tarot readers today are about giving guidance and support in whatever situation you're facing. It's not nearly as common to find those that say, yes, next week you are going to, win the lottery and meet the man of your dreams.
Yes, that's a bit of a mess. I can imagine that. So interestingly then, guidance and support, I mean, that is what we're looking to coaches for in whatever type of coaching we are looking for. So some people might say, oh, a life coach will help me. But I imagine that in your uniqueness, the coaching that you offer with the tarot at a level of that coaching, that would be a sort of similarities. Tell us a bit about the coaching that you do. What does that look like?
Okay, so people will normally come to me. I mean, my strapline is find your spark. So very often they're people that perhaps have lost their mojo. They've lost a bit of direction in life. They might be facing challenges and they're looking for answers and solutions to help them move forward. And I combine a more traditional, if you like, form of coaching, which would be establishing what the issue is, and then doing some coaching. So in a typical session would be doing some coaching, asking questions, listening, perhaps pushing a little, challenging sometimes, to get to the heart of the issue. In the second half of the session, I would then do a tarot reading, and depending on the session and what we had agreed on, it would include oracle cards, tarot cards, and it could be anything from a very simple reading with 3 cards, current situation, challenge, opportunity, to a full, we call it a Celtic cross reading, which is a very in-depth.
Wow. So I'm taking from that most of the time people come to you because they just feel flat. They haven't got that mojo, motivation, spark in their life. Is that the most common sort of reason that they give you?
It's interesting. I suppose that's the area I've tended to focus towards more recently. I get a broad range of people coming to me. I think it's a lot of word of mouth, and the thing that people come to me for apparently is that I make them feel better.
Oh, wow.
So
well, I have to say, your colors alone in what you're wearing today is making me feel better.
Oh, that's great to hear, Sigrid.
Right.
So I think that's where the spark comes. So it could be for example, at the moment, if I say I'm working with one person who's just lost their job through lockdown,
Yeah.
somebody else who's in the NHS, another person who is wanting to set up their own business. I have a strong business advice background as well. They would all tend to be professionals, but they sometimes know about the tarot and overtly want it. Quite often they won't say they want it, and then when I say I offer it as well, because I do coach without it,
Yeah,
but very seldom these days, then they'll kind of dip their toe in. So I do also cater to a lot of tarot virgins.
Fantastic. So that's really interesting, and particularly too that you should mention such different backgrounds, people from such different backgrounds. Yes, they are professionals, and they obviously are all looking for something that they haven't got in their life right now. How do they find you, Zoe, predominantly? What would be the most often used channel that they find you?
Nowadays, in the last year, it's Facebook. I'd say that's the platform that I'm most active on. Before then, I wasn't doing, certainly wasn't using Zoom. I was doing face-to-face coaching, and that was through business networking. And I was, because for 10 years, as well as doing coaching, I was a travel writer, a blogger. So generally speaking, digital, I used digital platforms a lot. But it's shifted definitely to online, as opposed to a year ago. I would say 90% of my business was coming locally from networking locally.
Yes, networking is a very strong, powerful way, isn't it, to make connections. But I think it's great to hear that you have transitioned into the online world without any hiccups by the sounds of it, because at the start of last year, a lot of people that, that I was working with in locality businesses, and even in businesses that are easily done like this online, that really were quite worried about continuing with their business or with their jobs because they couldn't see that. So I like it that you've transitioned very quickly. Now that opens the door for you to the world, doesn't it? By promoting yourself and what you do, you certainly can take clients on from anywhere.
Yes, I have. As I run courses now, again, as you say, it was Zoom courses. That's when I started teaching tarot, which is my sort of the new venture that I've moved into recently, which is again mainly to professionals, so they can use the cards, tarot or oracle or for themselves, to coach themselves, if you like. And certainly, I think on the last course, I had people from America, from Europe, and one from India. So, as you say, it's definitely open internationally.
I think that's wonderful. So now you've mentioned Oracle a few times now in different contexts. So tell us about Oracle, and particularly in you developing your own Oracle cards.
Right. Well, Oracle cards are different from tarot. So tarot, tarot card around four suits, a bit like our ordinary, playing card suits. And so in total, there are 78 cards. Oracle cards, on the other, and they have specific meanings. Once you've got those meanings, you can then use your intuition to enhance that. With Oracle cards, you can have any number of cards in a deck. They could be angel cards, they could be animal spirit cards, they could be for chakras, healing, whatever. They usually have, in fact, I've got one here if you like.
Oh yes,
just,
show us. Show us.
If you want, I can show you the difference, because it's so this is just on the bottom of the deck here, and it says peace. And we can see here there's an egg. This is an oracle card, and there's some imagery there of it's like a kite flying, and the reader will get the message of peace. They will talk about that, and then they maybe look deeper. With the tarot cards, then you have quite a specific meaning. So if I've just got on the bottom of my deck here the Six of Cups, which represents love, childhood, etc. But you learn the meanings of that,
right?
And that's quite in depth, at least traditional. That's how I teach it. Learn the meanings, but also use your intuition. With this, there could be, there are tens of thousands, probably millions of oracle cards, different types. And so I'm currently designing my very first deck. It's called Find Your Spark. There will be 44 cards. And it's actually being slightly themed on the pandemic. So there will be a card for quarantine, for example. There will be a card for something about distance. So it's sort of going to be contemporary, but with very beautiful artwork. I have a lovely illustrator who's working with me.
How wonderful. That's really exciting. Now, I think you said earlier that it might take quite some time to have something like that created. So it's not something we could kind of wait for in a couple of weeks' time? No,
sadly not. I mean, one of the challenges that I'm not an artist, and I'm a wordsmith, but not an artist.
Yes,
illustrator. So obviously, the process of creating the cards. Once we've got the deck, the 44, then I will kind of tune in to then get the meanings and then write the booklet. It's only a guidebook that goes with it.
Sure.
Then we have to prototype print it, and it's a lot more difficult these days than doing with self-publishing, and the area, obviously about these areas, getting a publisher, whatever. Getting card decks published is a lot more it's a lot more challenging. So the prototype process, then how you actually get it done. But
you're on the way. I think from what you're saying, it sounds a bit like designing a game, a board game, and wanting to get that out there. I've had some clients in that area in the past. They designed a particular board game, and they were looking at how they would be able to bring it out into the market, and it was a challenge for them. In that area. And the cards are different, obviously, but with a game you have all actual pieces. So that was a bit more than the cards. But I know that somebody else that I'm connected to has created some cards, although I'm not sure what they are now. So it's certainly possible. I'm looking forward to hearing from you when you are there to let us know, so that we can take a look at it and see if it is something to take up. As you said, you're teaching the tarot reading, so anybody like myself who might be interested could take that on. What would be the way to get in touch with you to find out? Is it a one-on-one program, or is it a group? How do you teach that?
I do. I'm actually hoping to start a group at the end of the month. That's a course. It's 6 weeks, 2 hours a day. 2 hours a week. But I suppose I do both. I do courses, but I'm planning on 2 or 3 introduction beginner courses a year, and then the rest is 1-to-1 or 2-to-1. That works quite nicely as well. So people, and they either find me on Facebook or my website, zoedawes.com. And
yes, we'll put those links below the video so that people can connect with you, certainly on those 2 for the moment, and then they can stay in touch if they like about more or getting to work with you. So leave us with a tip or a message that you have for people right now in general around from your intuition, from your perspective. What's a tip for us to do, to look for?
I think it is. You've got such a great tool there with your intuition. You know, it's something we're born with. It's definitely something that can be developed. So my tip would be, if every day you could just take a few minutes in the morning. I mean, it just takes 2 minutes to just, and a lot of people meditate and do breathing exercises or whatever, if you can incorporate it as well. And it's just to close your eyes and very quietly quieten everything down. And then just say, what do you want me to know today?
Wow. Wow, that in itself sounds very powerful. And I am going to do that straight away tomorrow morning,
Okay.
because I would like to foster my intuition so that I listen to it more. That's a great tip, Zoe. Thank you so much for sharing what you do. We'll put the links below the video so people can contact you, and a great tip. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ingrid. It's been a lovely pleasure, Sigrid. Thank you.
Very nice.